Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I will be sharing with you some bad news. I will be sharing with you some better news. And as always, I will show you some chess, which hopefully will excite you, will educate you, will entertain you, and I will show you how I recently crossed 3,000 ELO on chess.com, although there is a very small twist. Let's start off with the bad news. I had to cancel an upcoming chess tournament. Little bit of story time. I was sent to play in the Carlos Torre Repeto Memorial, an annual tournament that is held in the Yucatan Peninsula area in Mexico, in Merida. This is a picture from last year. This year, it was supposed to be on a beach area, and I was actually set to fly there literally yesterday. It was going to be a 9-round tournament. I was going with a couple of my friends. But then a snowstorm hit New York City. And I was flying from New York to Miami, and then I had to fly to Mexico. I got on my plane, and then we sat there for 2 hours as they were telling us that they had to de-ice the plane, and then that there were going to be delays de-icing the plane, and then a truck came and de-iced our plane, but it didn't de-ice it enough, and then it ran out of power. So then they had to bring 2 new trucks, and I was just going to miss my connecting flight from Miami, and there was no other way to get to Mexico. I could have tried to fly via Mexico City. I could have tried to fly to Monterrey, but there was just no possible way I was getting to this tournament. I could have maybe gotten to the tournament with a first-round bye, not playing in the first round and then continuing, but I already slept very poorly, and so I was like, look, I can't even make a norm if it's 8 rounds, or if I have to miss 2 rounds. I'm going to be exhausted. And they actually let us off the plane before they took off to Miami. So I woke up really early, got to the airport, sat in the plane for like 2 hours, and then exited the plane. It was one of the most ridiculous experiences of my life. And even beyond that plot twist, the plane in Miami was then delayed 3 hours after I got home here. So I came home thinking I was going to miss my flight because I was, and then it turns out the flight in Miami got delayed an extra 3 hours, and I actually could have made it. So whichever, chess gods there are did not want me to play in this tournament. I don't know why, but there is good news, and I will be playing a tournament later this month in December. It just won't be in Mexico. So sorry. That really sucks. I actually was looking forward to playing a tournament these next 5-6 days, but my friends are there. Good luck to them. And I will keep you all updated as to my plans. I'm going to try to play more actively December, January, and February. And as part of my plan and my play, I've been messing around with obviously different openings, with white and with black, just getting into the feel of playing different structures and positions. And I'd like to share them with you in this video. Okay, so this will be a little peek into what I'm training. Hopefully my future opponents are not watching too much. And one of the ways I like to practice, this is not super recommended, but anytime I start looking at different openings and different structures, for me personally, I like to play them in blitz and bullet games. You'll see me recently, I've been playing a lot of blitz. Sometimes I'll even play a little bit of bullet, and what I'll do is after the game is over, I'll analyze, did I make the right decisions in the structure? Did I make the right decisions in the opening? So in this video, I'm actually going to show you 4 games that I played against an average rating of like 3,000 on chess.com. My bullet rating has passed 3,000. I don't really flex that because anybody is 3,000 now on chess.com. But I will show you these structures and hopefully you take some inspiration. So my first opponent is Sava Vitokhin, not Sava Krasava. Krasava is like, I think it's like beauty, handsome in the Russian language. This is a young star from Russia. It's one of their actually only stars at the moment, like I think young players. There's a couple others, but Sava's one of them. Knight f6, bishop b2, and the reason why I'm showing this to you is because the position that we get actually really resembles a trompowsky. There's another way to play this position, which is d4, knight f6, bishop to g5, g6, and you get this type of pawn structure. And so in the game itself, we get that pawn structure, except I have b3. I then played c4. The best move for black here is to play the immediate move d5. Check the famous game Samay Reina versus Andrea Botes for that. My opponent goes bishop g7, and now I'm going to show you white's idea. White's idea is to just clamp down on the d5 square, not allow the opponent to break in the middle of the board, and these pawns will be getting in the way of these pieces. Castles, I played rook c1, which gets the rook out of the pin. The bishop is, of course, hitting the knight. Knight c6, and I played e3. I have a very straightforward idea here. It's to play d4, it's to put my knight on e2, and it's to castle. If my opponent were to play h5, I would play h4. That would be the idea. Sava here played knight e7, c6, but this is clumsy. This knight does not belong on e7 at all, because even though it looks like black is preparing d5, that is absolutely not the right idea of the position. The knight needed to, if anything, be on f6 and try to fight for e4. I will show you in a moment why this is inaccurate. Castles, bishop e6, d4, and this move d5. Now, white here already has a very considerable advantage. The reason is black's pawn structure has not been played in the best way, so it's doubled here, and there soon might be an isolated pawn in the center. This bishop is quite weak. It's not really doing anything. It's going to struggle mightily to break through the center of the board. And in the long run, I have the ideas to put the pressure. So I played knight f4 to put the pressure on the pawn and also to take it so that at the end of these trades, a pawn will stay there with no pawn to protect it. It would be an isolated and weak pawn. And this is what I'm talking about playing on structure. On the one hand, this is bullet chess. On the other hand, at 3,000, bullet chess is still... I'm not trying to say that I'm going to make a grandmaster norm or anything. I'm just trying to, show you that the quality of the chess is still extremely high, higher than 99.99999% of chess games that are played on any given day. So in this position, I went for pawn takes, bishop takes, I took, my opponent took, and now I just have a very straightforward game plan. I will be putting pressure on this pawn throughout the game. Really, the trade that my opponent would love to make is this knight. If this knight gets off the board, even like a bishop h6, it would be very helpful, but it's going to be very difficult. So now, knight back to d3. For a brief moment, I take my eye off of the pawn. I have an idea to play knight c5. I have an idea to maybe play b4, a4, queen b3, put my queen there with nonstop pressure on this pawn. This pawn will fall. It's just not guardable for long term. If I put my queen there, I put my knight there or there, and then I put my rook, I have 4 pieces attacking it. It's going to be really tough for Sava to defend. Sava went b6. I went queen d2, just slowly improving the position. My opponent went queen d6, and now rook c2. Simple idea, just double. Maybe trade the queen, so I bring my knight and I put some pressure. You see how useless this bishop is? It absolutely cannot break out of the position. Opponent went rook c8. I doubled up. Rook c7 was a mouse slip. And unfortunately, that is how the game concluded. If in this position, my opponent had gone rook takes c2, I would have played rook c2, and this position is a nightmare for black to defend. The reason for this is very simply, I am threatening a multitude of things. Let's say black plays h5. So first of all, I am at the very minimum threatening to trade the queens, because after queen takes, knight takes, it's not just this pawn that collapses. Look, it's plus 2.5. It's also the infiltration of the rook. This is total positional catastrophe for black. Everything is wrong. Like, this is weak, this is weak, this is weak. The rook doesn't have any access to the open file. The bishop is utterly useless. Like, I've been talking garbage about this bishop the whole game, but it's impossible for black to do anything, because the second you even try, knight d5 would be a mistake because of rook c1. Instead of knight d5, I could play bishop d5. This is a nice way to lose, though. Never, it's never too late to blunder all your pieces. But bishop d5, the second you even try, you just lose all your pieces. Rook c1, king g2. It's miserable, totally miserable position. And it's instructive because, if black plays this move d5 in this structure, then you simply take it and you do this. Now, okay, look, if I played Sava in classical chess, that's not what would have happened. We actually played one more game, and this is one of my favorite lines in the Trompowsky. I highly recommend you try this opening for yourself. Because it is so nasty. So the line usually starts d4, knight f6, and then you play a Trompowsky. Here we did what's called a transposition after this series of moves. However, what can usually happen is knight f6, bishop to g5, black plays c5, and instead of d5, which is the best move, you play knight c3. And the idea is quite straightforward. After pawn takes, queen takes, knight takes, you put your queen on h4, and this is a very difficult position for black. It's actually very annoying. Recently, my opponents have been playing d6, and then like bishop here, and then what they do is they try to checkmate me. But if you don't play this position like an idiot, then you don't get checkmated, and black's pieces are actually very clumsy. They don't stand on very good squares. You have bishop b5, etc. But the other way that you play this position with white is after e6, e4, f4, and your bishop is not capturable. It's not even capturable in this position. They cannot take the bishop, because if they do, this attack is absolutely devastating. There is nothing they can do to stop it. They can play g6 with the idea to play knight h5, and you simply go here, and now black just can't move. The whole lifeline is the knight, and my next move is e5. And what's funny is that my opponent, the talented young player, actually fell directly into this position. Knight f3, and black is already under a substantially dangerous attack. In fact, this position is not really defendable, to be honest. You have to play a move like queen c7 here. I think this is the longest way to survive. And even here, after it takes e5, once you get this wedge and this weak king, black is lost. Just lost. Black can play like knight e8, you take on h6, bishop d3, and GG. f5, you can probably take on passant, but even something like g4 and rook g1 is absolutely brutal. So when I got this, I was very excited. He took, and then he went rook e8, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm just winning. Pawn takes f6, queen h7, and we ended the game in style. Sava thought I was going to take the knight, but there's actually something even nastier here, which is queen h8, knight g8, knight h7 mate. That is not a checkmate that you see every day. When you stuff the entire row of pieces and black's king gets smothered to death by his own troops. So that's kind of a funny one. Obviously, these things only happen in bullet, but these positions, even though I'm playing them in bullet, everybody watching this can play this in classical chess. If you go to your local club and play this line of the Trompowsky with f4, there is a very good chance that you can play into something like this and the opponent will have no idea what to do. This is a really, really dangerous line. The best way for black to play here is actually not to play the move e6. Sorry, if you're going to play the move e6, you should not play h6. Like this is the interesting thing. There's a very particular way to play this position, and generally speaking, you should not go h6. You should play like queen a5 and try to avoid, confronting my bishop as long as possible. It's very tricky. It's not easy at all to play this. And that is how I won those two games. Now, here's a game which was not a Trompowsky game. It was rather this type of structure. But again, the dark squared bishop for me coming out to b2 or to g5, I like these positions a lot because, and I recently finished up my course on Larson's opening b3 on Chessly. The positions you get are really nice. Like if black goes g6, your idea is to take and then play c4. It's a very simple game. There's also the option to not take and just play like something else. But if they go like this, one of my favorite ways to play is to play f4 and play this like Lasker did. There's a very famous game on my channel called The Most Violent Game in History. It's like a blurred thumbnail. Yeah, that game was ruthless. And in this position, you can get that type of attack. You can get like a double bishop attack on the king. What's crazy about this position is the best move for white here is the move g4, which is awesome. That's just epic. And then you just go g5. And it's very easy for black to actually get a significantly worse position just straight away. And this is just fun. Like, this is just a really fun way to play. If they play f6, you can just turn it into a normal game with like d4. But knight c3 is good. And the thing is that if black goes up this pawn, you just immediately bring your queen, you bring your bishop, you long castle, and you checkmate them. You just obviously don't castle on the same side. We see this really powerful bishop in the long run. You're going to see what happens in this game. So I played knight f3. My opponent actually played very reasonably. This is the right way to play. Two pawns like this. And now I played knight e5. Already the position is relatively difficult for black. Like relatively difficult. It's not easy to come up with a plan. My opponent went d4, which is already a huge mistake. You should stay more patient. Bishop d7, rook c8. d4 is a mistake because now I completely changed the plan. I don't go for the attack right away because it's quite clear you've blocked me with my bishop. I changed the structure. I take on c6. And now I'm like, well, you can't take back your pawns. Your pawns have advanced. This one has to guard this one. These are doubled isolated c-pawns, so I'm going to go attack one of them with my queen. And now a very nice idea. I think I played, knight a3. So I'm putting my knight on c4, and I'm going to put my pawn on a4. And in the meantime, your pawn structure is just bad for the duration of the game. The pawns can't really move forward. They're going to really struggle. a4, knight c4. My opponent traded and went rook b8, and black is just literally out of moves. So now you have several moves. First of all, I can take on c6. That is just a free pawn. The reason I'm not doing that is I'm going to lose time and I'm going to lose focus. Yes, that's a pawn, but it will activate the diagonal of my opponent and my queen will get stuck over here, which I don't want. What I do want is I want to reopen the position for my boys, and then I want to go for an attack on the king. My knight is coming to the party, the bishop, the rook can come up and over, the g-pawn can be used to dislodge the knight from the defense of the king. Everything is looking tasty. Knight e5 is also another idea. Knight e5 and try to take on c6, and at all times I can bring in my rook, like as a backup if I have to do anything. And I thought my move here was very sensible. I just played this move e4, and I thought, just practically speaking, black's in a lot of trouble. Because I'm going to go e5, removing the knight, and then I'm going to keep attacking. And when you do this, now I go e5, and you can't even bring the knight back into the game. And if you go f6, you weaken your king, and I'm going queen h3, queen h5. From this point forward, I do have to activate this bishop, but it's quite clear I already have a very powerful attack, and at any moment I can play c3. And once we play c3 and this trades, the bishop rejoins the game. So my opponent went bishop b7, I went queen h3, and now I played queen h6. And my plan is rook f3 and rook h3, and black loses, right? So black has to react immediately by bringing the knight or the bishop to protect the king. Now, knight d6. The idea of this move is that you probably have to take. So the bishop is not going to be able to defend against the attack because I'm attacking the rook, bishop, pawn, everything. Black takes. And now it's just a matter of time until I open up. b4, c3, both of these things, this is falling. Black has to be extremely accurate, and he wasn't. He played queen f6, which is a mistake. Rook a7 is a nasty little move. I just bring this here. I don't have a threat, but I'm attacking. I'm threatening. I'm just menacingly standing there so you can't move anything. And I'm going to break apart the position. Black goes queen g7, and now we go here, knight f6, and the pawn falls and the entire position falls apart. Honestly, I could have even just taken the queen and just went c3. And this slow move is just, black just collapses because bishop c3 doesn't really matter. f6, and white can play anything, but bishop a6 is the most direct because after takes, black will lose everything. In fact, I can sack my rook. I mean, it looks like I just blunder it, but I don't even have to defend myself. Rook g7, king f8, king f1, and this is game over. d7, rook h7. Black absolutely has no moves. No moves. You try to take this, d7, you're going to lose the rook, and it is over. Not right away. I do have to be a little accurate, but yeah, in the game itself, my opponent lost the two center pawns, and this was the knockout. These bishops in this attack, in this b3 structure, are such a problem. They are such a problem for the opponent, yeah, if you are looking for a nice little opening, Larsson's and the bird together, along with the Trompowsky, I've been really enjoying these structures. Granted, I actually did play it in a classical game recently. You remember, I just had a classical game where my game went c5, e3, knight c6, knight f3. And in the game, it was like this, knight e5, queen c7, f4. I got a position where, like, from the opening, I had this, and it was just crushing already. Crushing, and I got a totally winning position, then I didn't win it, because that's life. But you play queen g4, it's very difficult for black to make a move. But sometimes you can just brute force go for the attack, and even if you're not checkmating somebody, this structure for black is dreadful. Like, white's position is super, super comfortable here. And these are 3000s, and again, I understand this is 1 minute chess. In half a second, we are playing moves that are generally better than most of the audience can play in like several minutes. It's just life. You play, hundreds of thousands of games. It's not an insult. That's just life. And so if you go to your local club or you play online, you're trying to get to 1500, you're trying to get to 1000, you're trying to get to 2000, whatever it might be, like, hopefully this is instructive. And this was another positional squeeze. This player is like 14, I think 15 from Iran, already higher FIDE rating than me, 2430, obviously going to be a grandmaster, might be a super grandmaster one day. I forget his name. Radin Yadigar. Yeah, Radin. But in this format, look, I got the same exact structure that I got in the Sava game. But look at how Sava played. And this is why I like these openings, because, look, history repeats itself. Look at my opponent's structure before the move c5. Look at the structure. It's the same for black. Black has, like, the same thing in both positions, right? And in this game, my opponent went c5, which is already a massive mistake. In fact, c5 is nearly, I don't want to say lost, but positionally, significant problems will now happen. Because as long as black loses total control of d5, Black is just going to suffer. Now, the best way to play again is to do a mix of like d6, c6, right? And then something like knight d7 and knight f6, like something like this where white has to very slowly approach you and do it in the right way, right? But if you play c5, as you're going to see in this game, now I know for the rest of the game, I plant something there, I will never be removed. And I will just very slowly build up behind it and show you how to take that little outpost square into a positional advantage. So e3, right? Rook e8, knight e2, d6, castles. And look, now I play d4. And now it's not even about this being a problem. This is just a straight up fork. So my opponent immediately has to scramble to play defense. They go bishop d7. I have multiple choices here. I can bring my queen. I haven't moved my rook yet. That's how you make the decision. Now, a lot of you might be thinking to push. That's not a terrible move, but it's close. Because look, you attack the knight, but after the knight moves, now you have nothing. So you don't get your outpost square. Your own pawn blocks your bishop. It blocks your queen, and it allows the knight to re-enter the game. Be very careful attacking knights with pawns. Once the knight moves around the pawn, you lose a lot of your power. And in fact, here's another drastic example. This move is losing. Because not only does the knight move around the pawn, it moves here, and you just lose. So before you play f4, it would be more reasonable to play h3 to try to get f4 on the board. And then black would have to make sure the knight doesn't get trapped. But be very careful. Instead, what I did is I simply took. And now my queen is active forever. My bishop will never be blocked. My knight will live on d5. This bishop is very good, but it's useless. In the Sava game, the bishop was useless and bad. In this game, the bishop is... It's kind of, you know, it's good, but it's just like throwing, you know, flames at nothing. There is nothing there. It's like a fire-breathing dragon, but it's just blowing in a direction where the enemy is just not. It's just standing around in the kingdom going, ooh, and you're just like, that dragon might need some assistance. I don't know. It's not actually doing anything useful, just kind of breathing fire into the ether. Bishop e6, knight f4, knight e5, right? We bring the queen, we bring the rook, and now the question becomes like, what do we do in this position? We've basically maximized everything we can do. I actually was really proud of how I played this game, even though it's a bullet game, because normally in bullet, you just like, you checkmate, boom, boom, boom. So first I went queen e2. Then I played h3, and I just improved my pawn and my king. Just slow improvements. Just, I mean, it's just taking a bit more space than before. Queen g5. And what I was looking for here is the right moment to take and make a weakness, right? So I took an e6. Now, if the pawn or the rook take, I'm going to retreat my knight and create a weakness. Now there's a weakness, knight f4. And here, there is always a tactic brewing with knight takes e6. Now, if I... and I played it now. My opponent needed to play the queen to a different direction. But when you would do this, the queen is not actually defending the pawn, because if you take it, I pin the queen to the king with my bishop, which is way more useful than the counterpart on the other side. My opponent goes king g8. I just bring the knight back. Now black starts going for counterplay. Knight e5. I play rook d5. I just bring my king back, and I'm going to double up the rooks. Very patient game. Very patient. Not letting my opponent do anything. Rook d5, replace the rook. What is black going to do? My plan now is to kick the knight out, bring the queen, bring in the rook, try to eat the rest of the pawns, and either get into an endgame or checkmate my opponent. So black went knight, queen to f6. Okay, I see this. Is it scary? Fair enough. Queen to d1, I don't want you to give me any check. You infiltrate, I bring my rook back. It's a counterattack. You have to move your queen out of the position. And now I play knight d5, kicking your queen out. And now I kick out your knight. So every move methodically being made, just no counterplay at all. Opponent has to retreat. I retreat, except I'm not retreating. I'm opening the door for the rook. After this little defensive shuffle, you have nothing. And I'm going rook d8 on the next move to infiltrate. And the game is just on the verge of being over. You bring the queen back to defend yourself. And I'm like, hey, I really want this rook to take me. I have a few moves. Of course, like simple, you can take this rook and take this pawn on b7 and be up 2 pawns. But I just went queen d7 because my king is always safe here. I'm threatening the rook. And after it takes knight g8, the game is just over after bishop d5. And you cannot stop the g8 attack. This was a very nice game as well. Between this game in this structure And the first game against players who are better than me. I mean, these are both players. Sava Vitokin is probably going to be 2600 FIDE, and definitely going to be 2600, if not already, and definitely going, 2700. This is like a 15-year-old Iranian kid who's, in all likelihood also going to approach Super GM. And, my strength is beating them in the 3 and the 1 minute formats. But still, these structures are so fun. And if you haven't been convinced already to try them, you should. Because clearly they lead to some very nice positional squeezes and the occasional, total decimation on the king side. Yeah, I have been messing around with different openings with white. I've been playing, I've been even testing some e4, but that's on a private account. I've been playing some d4, some c4, some b3, every first move. All right, just looking at, just trying to get more experience. My openings with black, obviously I have my Karo Khan, but I have others as well. Yeah, it's been fun to get back into chess and actually train it for classical purposes. It's a little bit annoying that my tournament couldn't happen. I couldn't travel because of the snowstorm, but I will be playing tournaments in December. I will try to play some in January. I have a fun match coming in January against the French chess YouTuber Julien Song. More on that later. And in February, maybe we'll see as well. But that's all I have for you today. So some bad news, some good news, clickbait, but not really clickbait, but sort of clickbait. But not, I couldn't play in my tournament. Yeah, that's all. Hope you enjoyed the show. And shout out to everybody doing the holiday challenge on Chessly. It's a lot of fun. We're almost at the level 4 now. So, get out of here.